Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for August 6, 2018. This week, let's begin with education. I'm sure you're all familiar with the dismal state of education right now, but it's worse than just morons pretending to be educated professors. In this case, it's not even about what they're teaching your kids, it's about what they're not teaching your kids. Survey: Americans support First Amendment rights, but don't know what they are. See the problem? It's very easy for me to repeal your rights if you don't even know what your rights are. A recent survey by Freedom Forum Institute found that while a vast majority of Americans claim to support First Amendment rights, many cannot define what those rights are. Bah! You don't need to know what something is to support it now, do you? I mean, hell, I don't need to understand math or physics to tell you with absolute certainty that the Earth is flat as a board, guarded at the edges by ice walls, defended by mystical ice demons, conjured up by our alien lizard overlords just to prevent you from figuring it out, now do I? According to FFI's annual State of the First Amendment survey, which polled 1,009 American adults, 74% of respondents disagreed with the statement that the First Amendment goes too far in the rights it guarantees to U.S. citizens, yet 40% could not correctly identify a single one of those rights. I don't think I need to tell anyone in my audience this, but for anyone else who happens to come across this video, there are 5 guaranteed rights in the First Amendment. Boiled down into simple language, they are freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to peacefully assemble, and freedom to redress the government for grievances. Fancy words for you have the right to sue the government if and when they fuck you. So they can fuck you again in court, but let's not get hung up on that at the moment. Similarly, 36% of respondents could list just one of the freedoms protected by the amendment, while just one respondent could list all 5. Yep. Only one person knows all 5. Over 1/3 know that they have at least one right, but 40% don't know they have any. And of course, if you don't know what your rights are, then you have absolutely no chance of understanding what those rights mean, either. So what happens when they want to take those rights away? You let them. In fact, you probably help them do it. Imagine a scenario with me for a moment. And I'm going to have to do a bit of explaining along the way, so bear with me. Americans head to the polls in November to start pushing R's and D's on the little touchscreens because, let's face it, at least half of these people don't have any idea who stands for what or what they're actually voting on. They just vote party because they think they know which one is better. Now, after the candidates for various offices on the ballot, toward the bottom is where they put all those ballot questions. Should we do this or should we do that kind of stuff. For example, in 2016, at the bottom of my ballot, was a question asking if they should reauthorize the 0.25% sales tax. Well, if you don't know what that sales tax was for, would you vote for it? Surprisingly, many do. Why? Psychology. This question comes after all the judges in the state. Where I live, we vote to keep or not to keep judges during elections. Now, I vote no on most, if not all of them, because, fuck me, I have no idea who most of these people are, and I certainly have no fucking clue if they're any good at their job. There's dozens and dozens of them every time. I can't possibly keep up with that shit. I have a life to live. Well, an undeath to live. Or, not live, but fuck it, you know what I mean. To me, the safest answer to anything the government wants is no. So if I'm being lazy and not reading the question, the answer is no. If your question is vague or I can't determine exactly what you want, the answer is no. Surprisingly, most people are not like that. They are relatively agreeable folks that default to yes. Talking with many other people I know, that's what they do. They all just vote yes, 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 all the way down the ballot because, fuck it, I don't know, I just want to get this over with and go home. Hard for me to really criticize them for that, as my vote isn't exactly informed on that shit either, so, whatever. Anyway, so the psychology part here is that they've got you voting yes, 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 question after question, yes, yes, yes. You're not even reading them anymore because you've already been standing in line to vote for 4 hours, and you just want to get the fuck out of the polls and go have dinner. Yes, yes, yes. Bam. You just voted in favor of some shit you oppose, and you didn't even know it. Yay! Government wins again. Anyway, after the judges part come the ballot questions. I do read those. That year, One of the questions was to continue funding a road improvement project in the local area by reauthorizing a 10-year 0.25% sales tax. Why 10 years? Because if we put that to a vote every single year, people might start voting no. Every 10 years? You pass it once, people forget about it, so you don't have to bother to read the question next time. I voted no, by the way, because fuck you. You already get money for that shit from our taxes anyway. What the hell did you waste that money on? But whatever. Just an example. Back to our little imaginary scenario. Now, suppose there's a question in there to repeal one of your rights. Now, mind you, they're not going to come right out and say that, so it's going to be couched in fluffy language, of course. Should we take away your right to free speech? Well, of course no one's going to vote yes on that if they actually read the question anyway, so they'll be creative with the wording. Indirect, fluffy-sounding rhetoric isn't my area of expertise, so my example here may be shit, but suppose instead they ask something like, should we impose fines and/or civil and/or criminal liability upon individuals, representatives, or organizations engaging in the dissemination of derogatory, insulting, or disparaging media directed specifically and/or specifying protected individuals and/or groups or the basis on race, sex, religion, sexual orientation, national origin, or disability status? Now, I want you to remember, you've just gone through and answered 50 or 60 similarly worded questions before this one. So for starters, who the hell is actually going to even read all that before they just get fed up and push a button? Secondly, what exactly do they want? Well, gosh, I don't know. But it sounds pretty reasonable, doesn't it? Stop people or evil corporations from oppressing the helpless. So I vote yes. Let's punish those evildoers and protect the innocent. Because I'm the good guy. And that's how your freedom of speech dies. You gave it to them. Now they go back to the State House or Washington or wherever and write a law to punish whatever they decide is hate speech. Here's your muzzle. You just consented to wear it. Enjoy. But that's just a fictional scenario we just made up, right? That would never really happen, would it? Perhaps not today, but what about in 10, 15, 20 years, when these people are now your elected officials? Back to the article. The discrepancy between expressed support and demonstrated understanding of the First Amendment may help explain some of the survey's other results, such as the respondents' willingness to let universities ignore the First Amendment when dealing with controversial speakers. The study found that 51% of Americans surveyed believe that public universities should be able to retract invitations to controversial speakers if their remarks would provoke large-scale protests from students. Similarly, 42% of respondents supported disinviting speakers who would be likely to offend some groups or individuals, and 47% approved of administration censoring events that's supported by public funds. You see where they're headed? I fully support the First Amendment that I don't know, which protects rights that I'm unaware of, and stopping people from saying things other people don't want to hear is perfectly acceptable to me. That makes perfect sense to them because they have no idea what these rights are or what they mean. They're just random words on a page written by some evil old white colonizers. They're meaningless syllables, and soon that's exactly what they will become. Okay, I'll put my soapbox away. Let's move on or I'll just keep babbling. Trump Jr. says the Democratic Party platform is similar to the Nazis. Oh, shit. This is going to be good. The willful ignorance is going to be epic, I can just tell. President Donald Trump's eldest son said the platform of the Democratic Party is similar to that of the Nazi Party in Germany during the early 1930s, and that history classes are biased against conservatives. So, in a video posted Thursday by the pro-Trump One America News Network, Jack Posobiec, never heard of him, a prominent right-wing voice online who supported the Pizzagate hoax, just had to stick that in there, didn't you, spoke with Donald Trump Jr., who compared the present-day Democratic Party to Nazis and disparaged history taught by academics. I've been out hearing the left talking about these things, fascism, Nazism, on the right, Trump Jr. said. And when you look at the actual history of how these things evolved, and when you actually look at that platform versus the platform of the modern left, you say, wait a minute, those two are really heavily aligned, and frankly, contrary to the right. I wouldn't say heavily aligned, but there are some similarities, sure. He warned people against saying something because someone told you that in a history class, because academia had been influenced by the left. True statement. Though it might sound a bit conspiracy theory to say, it is true. Everyone, including the left, knows it. You see the Nazi platform in the early 1930s and what was actually put out there, and you look at it compared to like the DNC platform of today, and you're saying, man, those things are awfully similar, to a point where it's actually scary, Trump Jr. said. Well, I don't know that it's that similar. Today's left is basically just pitching communism with pretty new labels. The Nazis hated communism, but yes, there are some areas of similarity with regard to policy proposals anyway. Could say that about any party, really. The Nazi Party ran an entire country for, 33 to 45, so a little over a decade, give or take. During that time, they made any number of decisions and policy proposals, including relatively mundane shit like street cleaners or road building or whatever. So to find a similarity between any modern-day party and the Nazis really isn't all that hard to do. Ideas aren't necessarily bad, just because a Nazi had them too. I mean, Nazis invented rockets. Does that mean we should discard rocket science as evil and stop exploring the universe around us? Of course not. That's just silly. At that point, the president's son contrasted his claims about Nazis and the Democratic Party with dreadlock protesters making accusations of fascism in the U.S., claiming those protesters do not know what they are running around and spewing. Also true. Many of them don't. They reveal that themselves when questioned about the most basic shit. They know the talking points they were taught to say, little else. But they're able to get away with that because, academia, mainstream media, they'll sell the false narrative, Trump Jr. said, and they've been doing it effectively for quite some time. Also true, and you're about to demonstrate it. Trump Jr.'s comment was a false equivalency. The Nazi Party's violent promotion of racism and anti-Semitism is not comparable to the modern Democratic Party of the United States. And here we are. See how quickly you've ignored the analogy on all levels, choosing to focus on just one aspect that fits your narrative. But let's address your assertion first. Democrats aren't racist, so they can't be Nazis. Really? They aren't? None of this shit is racism. Because racism is power plus privilege, right? If only the Nazis had been smart enough to redefine words. They wouldn't have been racist at all if only they had just said Jews are privileged. If only the Nazis had said the Jews were a danger to everyone else. If only the Nazis had told everyone how inferior Jews really were. Oh wait, they did. Can you see it yet? The National Socialist German Workers' Party, which was commonly referred to as the Nazi Party, was built on dictator Adolf Hitler's belief that Aryan Germans were superior to all non-Aryans, particularly Jewish people. The party's ideology was built on the central premise that Jewish people were responsible for the problems facing Germany following World War I, and that belief eventually spiraled into the government-run genocide against the Jews known as the Holocaust. And the left's current rhetoric is that all of America, indeed all of the world's current strife and issues are because of evil, cis, white, heteronormative, colonizing, patriarchal men. Still doesn't sound at all similar to you, does it? Let me put it to you this way. You've changed the boogeyman. That's all you've done. The message is still the same. Hate them. Everything wrong in your life is their fault. Trump Jr. made his comments at a movie premiere for Dinesh D'Souza, a controversial right-wing personality who pleaded guilty in 2014 to violating campaign finance laws. In late May, Trump announced a pardon for D'Souza, saying he had been treated very unfairly by our government. Trump Jr. took to Twitter on Thursday afternoon to defend his comments. So the left spends the last 3 years falsely calling my entire family Nazis, but the second I point out the similarities between the economic platform of the National Socialists and the Democratic Party, they scream bloody murder. Here's what I was referring to, #facts, Trump Jr. tweeted, along with a promotional video for the new D'Souza movie, Death of a Nation. Didn't see it, probably won't. But yes, you've ignored any other possible similarity between Democrats and Nazis because Democrats aren't standing at a podium saying, "Hate the Jews," even though there are, in fact, similarities. And I'm talking about other than the racist thing that I don't think we need to go over again unless you're really that blind or dense, in which case just rewind the video and watch that part again. No, economic policy similarities, for instance. Well, yes. For example, national health care. Nazi Germany had such a system. Though it was born quite a while before Hitler, and as I understand it, it used private insurance companies then. Quite similar to Obamacare as I understand it, but then I'm not an expert on historical German healthcare, so it might just be me misunderstanding their old system. Anyway, Hitler changed that system to centralize control through Berlin and cut out private insurers. Now I wonder, is there a modern-day political party calling for something similar to that? Gee, let me think. Nazis also pitched minimum wages, school reforms because their education system sucked before World War II, paid time off, and of course, let's not forget, gun control. You see, you thick-headed moron, your laser focus on only one thing you didn't like about the Nazis has blinded you to everything else about them. So you can't see any similarities between them and your precious Democrats, but they are there. All you have to do is open your eyes. And for the record, sure, if you want to, you can find similarities with the Republicans too. But economically, what the Republicans are selling isn't at all what the Nazis wanted. The Nazis vehemently opposed capitalism and private corporations of the West. Gee, now that I mention it, there's another similarity with modern Democratic platform, huh? Funny how that just keeps happening. And no, the Nazis were not socialists, despite that being in their name. They lied. They were fascist totalitarians. But it's okay. This time, the socialists are totally telling us the truth. All right. Damn, I talk a lot these days. I don't know how I used to do 5 articles each time, and now 4 is even longer. Toxic masculinity time. Arkansas woman kills husband over pornography, police say. An Arkansas woman was arrested Saturday after telling police she shot and killed her husband because he bought pornography, officials said. Wait, it gets even better. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office said in a news release it received a call around 2:30 p.m. from 69-year-old Patricia Hill, who told dispatchers she just shot her 65-year-old husband, Frank. When police arrived at the home, located about 36 miles south of Little Rock, they found Frank Hill dead in a shed on the property. Hill sustained 2 gunshot wounds to the upper and lower body, according to police. The sheriff's office said that during an interview with Hill, she told investigators she arrived home and went to the shed on her property to confront her husband, but there had never been any physical altercations between the couple. Got that? No physical altercation. He didn't do a thing, and she shot him twice. Why? Because he bought porn. You already told us. No. However, Mrs. Hill stated that she disagreed with her husband's purchase of video pornography via the television guide, which she canceled upon discovering the purchase. But Mr. Hill managed to place a subsequent order, Major Lafayette Woods, Jr., said. Mrs. Hill stated that she entered the shed and asked her husband to leave, but he refused. When her husband didn't leave the shed, Hill told investigators she went back to their home and got a .22 caliber pistol. She went back to the shed a short time later, where she entered and shot her husband twice, striking him once in the leg and once in the head. There it is. You bought something I don't like, and I got rid of it. You bought it again, so I told you to get out of my house. You refused, so now you have to die. Just another privileged cis-white male thinking he had the right to buy stuff and live in his home. The fucking entitlement of this guy, huh? Well, she sure showed him. But my favorite part comes from the author of the article. At this point, investigators do not believe the incident had anything to do with self-defense.
No shit, it, Sherlock!
Thanks. I don't think that was at all clear until you said that. Now, ordinarily, I try to wrap up with some funny news story, but I don't really have a funny story this week. Nothing in the news really just jumped out at me as extremely funny. Plenty of chuckles, mind you, but nothing really jumped off the page, so to speak. However, a certain viewer dared me to do something. In fact, I believe his exact words were, "I triple dog dare you with Grey Poupon on it." Now, I'm not going to mention any names or anything. You know who you are. Defiance. But I'm going to grant his request and share with all of you a tweet I stumbled across through Director Arcater and then shared over at Minds. It just made the most sense to put it at the end because, well, when I posted it, I was just stunned speechless. I'm not even exaggerating here. I couldn't even begin to address it. Now I've had, 3 days to process it, and I have to admit, I still have nothing to say. There simply are no words. So I'll put it at the end here to avoid making a 30-minute video of stunned silence. For those just listening and not actually watching, I apologize, but I simply cannot read this one to you. You'll just have to see it for yourself. I don't want my tone or emphasis or rhythm to change this tweet in any way. I want you all to experience it just as I did. Now, I will warn you all ahead of time. Call it your trigger warning if you like. Brace yourselves. This tweet is so fucking stupid, you may lose brain cells just reading it. Did you get that? You may have to read it more than once to fully appreciate all the varied layers of brilliance. Go ahead, rewind and read it again. Read it as many times as you like. Each time, another 4,000 things will flood your brain, all fighting to get out at once, until you just can't say anything at all, and you break down laughing hysterically to relieve the pressure. Now, I've left the Twitter handle on there for a reason. There is plenty more, earth-shattering brilliance in her Twitter feed. Feel free to have a look and laugh all you like, but please do not harass this woman. She clearly has enough problems as it is. That's it for this week. Remember the social justice mantra: women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.